welcome to the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast. It's a podcast where a filmmaker and a comedian feel the need for speed as we adventure through the 80s movies we love and love to hate. This is Top Gun, a movie selection from 1986.
I'm going to send you up against the best. Yes, sir. You two characters are going to Top Gun.
I feel the need for speed.
For 5 weeks, you're going to fly against the best fighter pilots in the world.
You guys really are cowboys.
I don't like you because you're unsafe.
That's right. I am dangerous.
The wild card flies by the seat of his pants.
Yeah, I guess when I see something, I go right after it.
It takes a lot more than just fancy flying.
Film in this school is without combat. There are no points for second place. Figured it out yet? What's that? Who's the best pilot? No, I think I can figure that one out on my own.
Tom Cruise, Kelly McGillis. Top Gun.
Okay, what's your history with this movie?
Not much of a history. It's definitely one of those movies that I caught pretty early in life, not as a young, but as a teenager. Not as a youngling, but a teenager. Yeah, you?
I watched this movie so much. Like, I have it memorized, like, to the point where I could sit here and pull an Adam Reaney and be like, I gotta do something I still can't believe. Like, I know every word of it. We watched it so much. My dad had a video production company at one point in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And so he used to edit out the VHS tapes, like the sex and violence. So this movie, I didn't know there was a sex scene until I was fully an adult. Like, I thought it was just volleyball and then planes. So I've watched this movie tons and tons and tons and tons and tons, and fully expected to be like, oh no, this is just going to be a love fest. We're going to be like, oh my God, don't you love this? Oh my God, don't you love that? Oh my God, isn't this amazing? And I guess I haven't revisited it in a while because I have a lot of problems with this movie. Yeah, I did not enjoy, I don't know, if it just caught me on a weird mood or if I wasn't feeling nostalgic enough. Mm-hmm. I did not enjoy watching Top Gun.
Oh, wow.
I had a lot of problems.
So I probably enjoyed it more, but this is not a love fest, you know. I'm kind of, I definitely had a good time, but I was liked with this movie and not in love.
I feel like I went into it expecting to love.
Yeah.
Expecting
the music's
that I
great.
Loved.
The music.
Fucking Kenny Loggins. Yes, get in here.
So
Highway to the Danger Zone. Let's do it. You take my breath away. Yes.
So good. Young Tom Cruise. What a delight.
What a delight.
Young Val Kilmer. I mean, come on. We even discovered a Tim Robbins in there.
Meg Ryan.
We don't even see Tim Robbins' mouth.
You don't. There's a lot of Anthony Edwards.
Great cast, great music,
Tom Skerritt,
amazing photography.
Michael Ironside,
Tony Scott knocking it out of the ballpark.
There are so many elements. It's shirtless volleyball.
It's just, the movie is a sugary confection. And sometimes you're just not in the mood for that much sugar.
Yeah, it's nothing happens in this movie. Nothing happens in this movie except he gets to go to a school.
They graduate a school.
And his friend dies. But okay, so many things. First of all, the first thing we see is them out on a training mission.
Yeah, this movie is bookended by nameless villains.
Yeah, in MiG-28s.
Yeah, which the Russians and the communists flew.
Right. So Maverick and Goose, along with their wing persons, Cougar and Merlin, encounter these MiG-28s and have like a bit of a dogfight where no shots are fired, right?
Right.
But Cougar gets freaked out because the MiG-28 gets a radar missile lock on him. So it's kind of like this kid's first realization that, oh, I'm in a plane in the sky and someone else might shoot me and then I would be dead.
Yeah.
And then my child would be an orphan and my wife would be a widow. He's just now putting this together. So when they, like...
Yeah, they didn't include that on any of the posters that you see in the background.
Nobody mentioned it in the training material. So Maverick has to go, like the first time we see him like being a showboat and being like a guy who plays by his own rules is he refuses to land his plane. He goes back up and like his plane holds Cougar's plane's hand and they fly down together. So he helps his friend. That's the first thing we see him like defying in a moment where he's like about to land and he goes, Cougar! And like jumps back up in the sky.
And the photography is great. Like,
Yeah.
So my guess is why they don't, because it's basically assumed that the bad guys in the MiGs are Russians. You know?
Right. And
But
they are faceless.
Yeah.
We can't even see their eyes.
Right. And they never say Russians in the movie, or at least when they're referring to these guys. It's always they're referring it to the jets, like the MiGs, you know? And my guess is that they had a lot of military cooperation in this movie because we get so much amazing photography that the audiences have never seen before,
Including 2 actual missiles fired.
Yeah, exactly.
With the permission of the United States.
Exactly.
Navy.
And my guess is that they didn't want to exacerbate international diplomacy and clearly say that the bad guys are Russians. They gave themselves the leeway because many different nations use the MiG, you know, as an aircraft that it could be any of them. But there's like a little red star on their helmets.
But it's the Russians.
Yeah, but it's the Russians.
This is basically a commercial for the fucking Navy.
Yeah, and so this is kind of the prototype of like the Michael Bay movies that we see.
Yes, because like literally there is no plot. And so like Cougar loses it and turns in his wings. Can you just quit the Navy? Can you just be like, oh, sorry, I'm out. It's too much. Bye. Like, I'm pretty sure you can't do that. Anyway, so because Cougar has freaked out, Maverick and Goose have earned the top spot, and they get to go to the elite fighter pilot school called it's not called Top Gun, but people call it Top Gun in Miramar. So they go.
Myanmar.
No. Miramar.
Yeah. California, right?
In San Diego, yeah.
San Diego, yeah.
So they go, and the first thing that happens when they get there is like they go to a bar, because what else would you do? And the toxicity begins because they make a fucking bet that Goose is married to Meg Ryan, which don't we all wish we were in 1986?
Yes.
And so he makes a bet with Tom Cruise that he has to have sex with a woman on the property of the bar in order to win $20. Garbage. This is garbage, Maverick and Goose. So he pulls the whole, like, everyone knows that you've lost that loving feeling, right? It's because he's identified this blonde woman and he's going to try and win this bet. So much so that, like, they have a nice, pleasant conversation, and then she's like, oh, okay, like, someone better is here.
Yeah.
Bye, you cute little...
Kelly McGillis.
And she's like, it rejects him nicely. It's a very, like amiable rejection. She goes and sits down with an older guy who, spoiler alert, turns out is the real character that the Viper, Tom Skerritt's character, is based on.
Oh, okay.
He's like a real pilot hero guy whose name is Pete, which is why the character's name is Pete, because it wasn't that at first. Anyway, I digress. He follows her into the bathroom.
Yeah, into the ladies' room.
Into the ladies' room. So that he can either convince her to have sex with him right there, which is what they talk about in that scene, or lie to Goose about it, which ends up happening because she walks out of the room and it says, like, your friend was magnificent. What is this garbage? I hate it. Okay, the next thing that happens, they go to Top Gun, right? They're sitting there. Tom Skerritt's like, you're the best of the best. but only one of you can be the best of the best of the best, and you get your name on a plaque. Isn't that exciting? Val Kilmer's there. It's all very square-jawed. And then, turns out, Kelly McGillis is a civilian flight instructor. Not a flight instructor.
No, she's an astrophysicist and a
Yes.
civilian, but she's also basically the brains of the operation, talking about strategy and technical aspects.
Aerodynamics.
Aerodynamics, yeah, not about combat strategy, but about the mechanics of the ship.
So the first thing that...
The ship. I just muddled everything. The Starcraft information.
The Airbus. Airplane. So the first thing he does is undermine her professionally. And then, like, when she then expresses professional interest in hearing about his encounter with a MiG in real life.
Yeah, because no one's done that yet, at least with this current iteration of the MiG.
And he's a dick to her. He's like, oh, well, I guess you can read about it, Little Miss Security Clearance. And it's like, what is it here? What is it? Do you want to be, like, having a more close relationship with her, or do you just want to be a dick to her when she's interested in you professionally, but not romantically, it seems.
And it's interesting. It's like, so, Iceman, Val Kilmer, is kind of portrayed as, like, the bad guy or the antagonist. But every time he's, like, pushing up against Tom Cruise, because he's saying, like, Tom Cruise is unsafe.
That's exactly right. And he is.
Yeah. If anything, Iceman is, like, the hero.
He is. He's the hero we fucking deserve. And the hero we need right now. Yeah, they call him Iceman because he stays cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And he's responsible.
Uh-huh.
And he folds his laundry.
Yeah. And that's like, every time he confronts Tom Cruise, he's like, you're not safe. You put people in danger. You left your wingman. Nobody wants to fly with you because you're unpredictable. And, like, we're supposed to be on Tom Cruise's side. But we shouldn't be on Tom Cruise's side. Okay, because here's what happens with the love story, right? So she professionally criticizes the choice that he made in that MiG situation, right? She's like, I understand what you did, but we're saying it's what you shouldn't do because it was unpredictable and you just got lucky, right? Which is his brand. And then
he's on brand.
Yeah. So he peels out in his motorcycle because he's so mad that she criticized him. Okay. She chases him down in her convertible and, like, very nearly kills lots of people just so that she can, like, confront him and be like, I stand by what I said. Like, I'm a professional and you are reckless and you didn't make a right choice, but I had to get out of there because I didn't want anyone to see that I'm falling for you. Right? So then...
And then begins the sequence that your dad...
That I
edited
never
out.
saw, yes. Yeah. They go to the bone zone.
And oh my God, Tom Cruise uses a lot of tongue.
It's gross, right?
Yeah, it's more than once. He uses a lot. He is full on real kissing, not movie kissing.
Right.
And
in
a lot
silhouette.
of tongue. Yeah.
And it's like you told a robot what humans do when they kiss. And he's like, with the tongue, I just stick it out and bop it on her face. Like, it's so dumb. It's not sexy. Like, I'm glad I didn't see it as a child, or I'd probably have some messed up ideas about sexuality. But they've had a date before this, right? Where she says, 5:00, come to my house. Don't be late. What does he decide to do? Go play shirtless volleyball, show up late, and be, like, stinky and be like, I need to take a shower. What a dick. Like, it's like he has oppositional defiance, okay? He either has oppositional defiance or he's a sociopath. Which do you think it is, Nathan?
I think it's the first.
Yeah. Well, because he doesn't obey any of the rules. Like, they say there's a hard deck, he goes below the hard deck. Mm-hmm. They say don't leave your wingman, he's going to leave his wingman. He's
a maverick. Yeah, he hates rules. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to be defined by them. Mm-hmm. He wants to break all of them, and that's his. He's trying to validate himself because he's got this long what we learn later is that his dad died, and he was a pilot. He was a legendary pilot as well, and there was a lot he wasn't told about it, and so
But died under mysterious circumstances.
Yeah, top secret circumstances, which Viper ends up kind of keeping him in the loop on.
But everybody up until this point has wondered if his dad was a hero or a villain, right?
So Tom Cruise's character is really defined, but that he's got something to prove.
Yeah, unlike Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse,
right?
Tom Cruise is the living embodiment of having something to prove.
There is a lot of similarities between these two films because the love interest is both like a blonde doctor in a white lab coat. And then we've got one character with nothing to prove and one character with everything to prove.
Yeah. Well, and Goose is sort of his heart. Like, Goose is
his human connection.
It's his conscience. It's his reason to live, right?
Goose is the one person who's not shirtless in the volleyball scene because he's not jacked and ripped like everyone else.
No, he's just a guy who's happily married to Meg Ryan. They're in love. They've got a child. Like, Goose says at least several times, like, "Hey, Mav, can you be cool? I need this job. Like, I have to support my family. Can you maybe not get us killed or fired?" And Maverick's like, "No, I can't do that. I'm sorry. Love you, bud. No." And he gets Goose killed. Well, it's not his fault, and they determine it's not his fault. It's just an accident because the movie needed something to happen to Maverick, right? But again, literally the one time this kid doesn't win, right? He flies through a jet wash. They try to bail out on the plane. Oh, also, I thought it was really nice how, bald-faced the Navy is about how they care about the plane, not the pilot. They're like, that's not your plane. That's a $30 million plane. You need to land the plane. Get the plane back here. The plane, So he flies through a jet wash. They try to bail. Goose hits the canopy and dies. Then because one bad thing happened to him, all of a sudden...
He's shell-shocked.
He can't do anything. He won't fly. He won't engage. He can't. He's broken. Meanwhile, Meg Ryan's like, "Hey, I'm the one who kind of is lost something here, but let me be emotionally available to you and let you know that, Goose loved flying with you, and he would have kept flying if he couldn't fly with you. So it's not your fault." Right? Kind of? Was that your read on it or no?
Yes.
What? Why are you laughing?
No, it's absolutely right. Yeah.
And then so he graduates anyway, and then immediately he quits, but then he doesn't quit.
Yeah, which you can do at the Navy.
Apparently, you can just quit anytime you want, because he quits and then he doesn't quit. Like, he unrings that bell, and they're like, "Well, you have enough points to graduate, so just show up if you feel like it." Which their graduation is at someone's house. It's poolside.
Well,
did that feel weird to you?
It did a little bit, but it makes sense.
Does it? Okay. And then, as soon as the graduation's over, which, by the way, Iceman won.
Yeah, which is a great twist. Tom Cruise is not the Top Gun.
He's not. And he shouldn't be. Iceman is, better. And they have to go fight.
Yeah, so they get a real. So this has all been part of the training, but then they get a real call that there's an international situation. They need fighters to deal with this. To
escort a ship to safety.
Right?
Is that right?
Yeah,
I was confused.
At this point, I was
checked out. At this point, I was like, "Is this what this movie is about?"
Right. So basically, it's the bookends of the mysterious bad guys of unknown nationality in the MiGs that kind of bookend the movie. So we've got everything has all been kind of training, but you've got these real life situations at the beginning and end to kind of bring everything full circle.
Right.
And so you've got Iceman now working with Tom Cruise. So this is kind of the home that they started off, this aircraft carrier that we saw Tom Cruise and Anthony Edwards operating it, and now all these other fighter pilots, because it's a dire situation, have to come here so Iceman and Hollywood and some of the other dudes all have to kind of work
Merlin,
together.
yeah.
Have to work in a So Tim Robbins is now Tom Cruise's new buddy.
Yeah, his back of plane buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And through the beginning of this dogfight, like, Tom Cruise won't engage. He leaves Val Kilmer hanging. Like, at one point, Iceman is trying to dodge. Is it 6?
Oh yeah, so it gets real really quickly. Like, there's like it's how many good guys are there? Like 4.
And they shoot down one of them.
Yeah, so there's like six MiGs.
And 4 of our guys.
Yeah.
And they immediately shoot down somebody's plane.
So this is kind of
real.
like in the story. This is kind of like the whole movie has been kind of almost like a sort of like a back to school kind of movie, you know?
Yeah.
Where everything is everyone's trying to one up each other. Your allies are actually your competition, but now they're kind of returning to the real world, and now it's going to be the real test.
Where it's like, yeah, these are your brothers. Like, these are the people that you need on your side.
Yeah. The people that you've been fighting all along are actually the people that you're fighting with.
Yeah. But he totally leaves Iceman out there fighting 6 guys by himself, right? And then at the last minute, he's like, okay, right, all right, I guess I am a fighter pilot. And which, by the way, so irresponsible of everybody who decided to send Maverick up there. It's like,
yeah, Iceman.
Should we send Maverick up?
He literally has that conversation.
Yeah.
Iceman has that with the superior officer. It's like, should we really put him up there? I've got concerns.
I have thoughts. And it's like, no, it'll be good for his emotional development. Let's put, like, a lot of people's lives at risk so that this guy can learn an important lesson. Eye roll. But he, like, at the end, like, he saves the day using a trick that we see in the opening scene, right? Which is like, we're going to hit the brakes and he'll fly right by. Which, sky brakes, is that a thing? So they hit the brakes. The bad guy flies by, and he shoots them when they're in front. And it works. And they win. And they come home.
And there's great music.
The music is great. And then, like, the last piece of it is, like, that scene where Iceman's, like, they're all congratulating. Everybody's happy. We saved the day. And then Iceman comes in, and he's like, you think he's mad because he put his life in jeopardy up in the sky. But he's not mad.
You're the best son of a bitch who ever flew an airplane.
You can be my wingman anytime. Which is like, no, he's a terrible wingman. And the answer is like, bullshit, you can be mine. And it's like, even that, he's trying to compliment you. And even then you're like, no, fuck you, I'm the main guy. Oh, come on, guys. And that's the end of the movie. No, the last thing we see is Tom Cruise. I don't know if it's the last thing we see, but, like, he throws Goose's dog tags into the sea because he's like, I gotta let you go, Goose. My journey carries on, but yours ends here. He throws Goose's dog tags into the sea, and I'm like, do you not think Meg Ryan wants those? Or maybe
Meg Ryan's son?
His son, yeah. No. It's all about
So
Tom
this has been
Cruise.
another episode of the Most Excellent 80s Movie Podcast, where we took a movie that you liked and we really didn't like it. And we're sorry we didn't like it, but stories change. People change. You can totally love this movie. There's lots to love about it.
Name all the things that we love. Let's name all the things we love.
so
Volleyball,
yeah.
music.
Right.
Riding a motorcycle while the sun sets and planes
Tony
fly.
Scott's direction, like,
It's great.
The photography, like, so comparing this to like Michael Bay, because I feel like Michael Bay really kind of learned at the foot of like Tony Scott, the director, and Tony Scott at this point really hadn't done too much. Like, I mean, Tony Scott is Ridley Scott's brother.
Yes.
And I mean, done a lot. I mean, he'd done tons. He'd done hundreds of commercials, and he'd done like the movie The Hunger with David Bowie. But this was his big commercial success. And you see. So let me talk just a moment about like long lens photography. So that's,
Please do.
So there's like short, so there's like Terry Gilliam, which does these wide lenses. Everything is distorted and space goes on infinitely. And then with like long lenses, so we're talking like 85, 100 millimeter lenses, they compress everything together. And this has tons and tons of like long lens photography. And a lot of times it makes things really beautiful, but it can also like distort space as well, just like the wide lenses. And it's tough to get a sense of the geography. And if it's done poorly, especially like in action movies, it just kind of makes me like frustrated and nauseous and not get a sense of how everything relates to each other. And it almost makes things less realistic and more subjective, like too subjective. You don't feel like you're really there. Like I felt like J.J. Abrams was trying to make a Tony Scott film with like Mission Impossible 3.
Oh, okay.
Which I really enjoyed when I saw it. When I rewatched it, it bugged me.
Okay.
But yeah, Tony Scott. This is no. I'm more of a wide angle lens kind of person. Like the Coen brothers. Like they and like Spielberg. Like they like to be inside the space and feel like you're participating in it,
right?
Rather than kind of like selecting these moments that are very beautiful, but it's very kind of almost abstract, And so Tony Scott, in my mind, and in this movie, does it as good as it gets. He does a fantastic job and makes me rethink my hard stance on long lens photography.
Oh, I mean, I definitely, can't come at it with that technical amount of mastery, but like, I think it looks cool.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for your filmmaker
Sure,
insight.
I'm getting
like
off
it.
of my filmmaker podium.
Get back on it.
We each had
stay up there, damn it.
I feel each of us had a very passionate stance on this episode.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we expressed ourselves. Thank you for joining us, fans. I'm sorry if we ruined a movie that you love.
Look, that's going to happen, man. Like, we haven't done any of the movies that are known to have not aged well and been problematic. Like, we haven't done 16 Candles. Yeah. Everybody knows what's wrong with that. Like, we've sort of, I mean, with maybe an exception here or there, like, this movie, the story just isn't modern. It's a story for 1986.
It's such a rally cry. It's such a I wonder how Cocktail holds up.
I bet just about as well as this.
Yeah, and it's interesting, it's like it's a type of movie that doesn't get made anymore.
Except for that they're making a sequel to it.
And I'm excited.
30 years later, they're making a sequel. Yeah. It's called Maverick. I'm excited. I'm going to see it. Like, I love Tom Cruise. I love that crazy little elf. Like, I see his movies and I enjoy them and I like him and I'm into it. Like, I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm just saying, like, let's take our long lens and look at this with 2019 eyes, and like, be real about what the point of this movie is. The point of this movie is to get young men to join the Navy, but not follow any rules when they get there. There was some fun stuff in the, like, did you knows? So apparently at the real Top Gun school, there's a $5 fine if you quote this movie.
I'm sure that's money well spent, though.
Is it?
Yes. I would, if I was attending this academy, I'd hand over like $20, and it's like, this is for the first 4.
Yeah, I need to get it out. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. Fun fact, out of everybody who went up in the actual fighter jets, the only person who didn't barf was Anthony Edwards.
Nice.
Yeah, way to go. Yes, this is, I already mentioned, Charlie's older man date at the Officers Club is the real-life Viper, Pete Pettigrew, which is a name from Harry Potter of a bad guy. Anyway, he's a retired Navy pilot who did shoot down a MiG during the Vietnam War, and he was a technical consultant on this film. Tom Cruise is shorter than Kelly McGillis. Everybody knows that.
She was also older, too.
Yeah.
We've got negatives. Let's talk about one positive. This is a younger man, older woman romance.
Yes, and she's a professionally ambitious woman who gets what she wants, and I like that. Yeah. I did like that.
And I mean, if we're comparing Roadhouse and Top Gun, like, she's way better than the cardboard character from Roadhouse, the love interest.
Yeah, whose like only job is to love him, then tell him she doesn't approve of his throat ripping.
Which I can't get on board with.
And this is a fun movie. Like, for all of the quotes in Roadhouse that don't quite hit the mark, this movie is so quotable.
Yeah,
there are so many good quotes.
If the ideal situation to watch Roadhouse is beers and taco, like this movie is like nachos and Pepsi.
And like just be outside at a barbecue, like high-fiving. That's what you need. Like that, it's a high five of a movie. This movie is a high five personified. The quotes are great. The performances are really good. They're really good. It's the story that I have a problem with. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Scale of 1 Buzz the Tower, which we didn't even talk about that part where he buzzes the tower, and the guy's like, "I want some butts." Like I love that part. Negative Ghost Rider. The pattern is full. So how many? I'm
gonna go with 6.5.
High fives on the scale
6.5
of 10?
high fives.
6.5. Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 5. I'm going to take it right down the middle and say 5 because what is good is the 80s of it, the nostalgia of it, the fun of it, the performances. What's not good is that it doesn't hold up, I don't think.
Yeah, and really at the core, it's an unhealthy story.
It is.
The character.
Yeah. This guy needs
I agree.
to go to therapy.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your deep cut recommendation?
So my deep cut recommendation is it's actually a YouTube video called "The Art of the Kill."
Oh.
Yeah. So if you're into the jets, if you're into like, I almost thought of doing like a flight simulator as a recommendation, but I don't know, and I actually haven't done one in a long time. But if you're interested in just like how freaking complex and difficult like actual dogfighting combat is, this is actually like and it feels like the 80s, but I think it was made in the 90s or early 2000s or whatever. But it's basically like, if you wanted to be in one of those classes at Top Gun, this is that. So an hour-long like lesson of like an instructor, just like Viper, talking to all these other students there who are dressed like they're in Top Gun, showing them how the techniques of air-to-air combat work.
Wow. I did like that part where they're doing like plane homework. Like they're having to do math.
Talking shop, and it's so complicated.
And understanding astrophysics and like aerodynamics and like...
Yeah, so The Art of the Kill.
Yes. That's a good recommendation. Nice work. You're killing it today, Nathan. I want to... my recommendation is Captain Marvel.
Oh, okay.
To get a fighter pilot who wants to go higher, further, faster. Just tell a different view of life as a fighter pilot in the 90s instead of the 80s. And also just to like rinse out the toxic masculinity with a refreshing, minty blast of a strong female fighter pilot who, like Dalton in Roadhouse, has nothing to prove, but goes on a journey through, does she need to prove herself? Does she owe it to everybody to prove herself and earn her place? Or does she get to say, no, I don't have anything to prove to you? Spoiler alert, she doesn't have anything to prove to you. She's Captain Marvel. So like, is this possibly the most I've ever like railed about toxic masculinity? And
yes, you're pretty harsh on Crocodile Dundee.
I was.
But I think this might have been, but that's okay.
Okay.
It's all right.
I don't know. We'll see. If you disagree with me.
No, this is part of what the podcast is about. Revisiting things that we thought were totally normal when we were young, and now as an adults, taking like a much more mature look at it.
This is something I want to know what your thoughts are on this. Okay. And if it's terrible, I'll cut it out. But like, I feel like I loved this movie quite a bit when I was a younger person, like a young kid and a teenager, because like I definitely like had to see myself through the eyes of male characters. Like, there just weren't, the only choice of lady characters were all like Molly Ringwald's, right? And they were all in high school dealing with high school problems. Like, I wanted to see myself as a Marty McFly, you know, as
an adventurer.
Yeah, as Maverick, as Indiana Jones. Like, so I think that I didn't necessarily, like, I put myself in their shoes instead of like as an adult stepping out of it and being like,
and I think as kids, you don't necessarily understand like what the gravity is of some of the stuff that they do that that we are picking up on, you know,
right?
Like making a bet to bet a woman. It's just a game.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know what they were talking about. Like when I was a kid watching this movie, it meant nothing to me.
Yeah.
That's like, I always say that when it's like showing kids movies to my kids, it's like, well, you don't know what you don't know. Like the stuff that goes over your head.
And then Tom Cruise's character being so irresponsible that it puts everyone else into danger. You don't understand how life and death that responsibility actually is unless you're older. You just think it's cool, and he's the hero, like, you know, like in Star Wars or something. And why shouldn't he be the best?
Yeah,
you know, why shouldn't he do the things that us, you know, buzzing the tower? It's like it's a thrill as an audience member, you know,
to get to see that bad boy, that bad boy, and we all just want to change him. But, you know, I think it is a little bit of a thrill now to finally get the opportunity to have like a female Captain Marvel hero who's out there doing all the things that, you know, I wanted to do but could only see myself through the eyes of Tom Cruise. I don't know. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything bad to say about it. I think it's good. Like, you know, you got your Top Gun. It's there. It exists. You know, it was made in 1986. It is of that era. It still exists today. You've
still
got
plenty to love.
Plenty to love. Plenty to look at with different eyes. Anyway, end of rant.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Did we do everything?
I think we did.
Okay. Thank you for listening. We sure do appreciate you. Thank you for liking, rating, reviewing, subscribing, all of that stuff.
It does help.
I mean,
you know, it's not something we just say. We want this. We're hoping that people enjoy this podcast. We hope that they dig it. You know, we're having a good time. And when you do a review, give us a rating on iTunes or on wherever the hell this podcast is on. It does help people who are new to the podcast explore and see that people dig it. So
yeah, I have a question I forgot. What would you want your call sign to be?
Ooh, have you come up with anything?
Yes.
What?
I would want it to either be platypus, because they're deadly, or hippo. Also deceptively deadly.
They are so deadly. I've got stories
about hippos. I want to hear
for another
them.
episode.
You could be. What do you want to be?
Accountant.
He's got your number.
Right.
You better have the receipts. The accountant is coming. Okay. So yeah, like thank you so much. We appreciate everything that you do. Thank you for listening. Remember, when you're out there in the world, please keep the most excellent 80s movies podcast motto in mind. Be excellent to each other, and be sure to listen again should you feel the need. The need for speed. Ooh, we should go watch Speed.
That's in the 90s.
Dang it.